going?
I'd like to get through to the washroom.
Let the lady pass.
Hey, Mama, go walk someplace else.
Why don't you gamble someplace else?
Because we're gambling here, sweet thing.
This is a restaurant, not an alley.
Hey, keep on stepping, baby. We want it to be preached till we go to church.
Y'all need to go to church.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah,
Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
That's a scene from Milwaukee filmmaker Michael Schultz's Cooley High, the 1975 film that became one of the change agents in American and black cinema. For me, who was then a product of Sandtown in Baltimore's West Side, it was one of the first times I saw someone like me accurately portrayed on screen. And that actor joins us now, Mr. Glynn Turman, who's also added producer, director, and writer to his credit since then. He's going to talk about Cooley High and The Legend of Glynn Turman, which is his new project. Welcome to Black Nouveau.
Hey, Everett, how are you? Long time no see.
How about that? We did meet earlier in life. You know, when you were making Cooley High, were you aware of the potential the film held?
Not at all, Everett. We had no idea it would become an icon.
Well, it did more than that. I mean, for my generation, you portrayed something we hadn't seen on screen for a while. That was very important to a lot of people, not just like me, but, you know, a lot of folks.
Well, you know, it gave us a vehicle in which, and when I say us, I mean we as a black people, it gave us a vehicle in which we could be proud to share with the rest of the world in telling our narrative in a way that had not been delved into before. And so it made it stand apart for that reason, I think.
That's true. You know, and a number of the next generation of filmmakers after Cooley High talked about how important that film was to them in making those decisions. One of my favorite memories from that film, though, is Walter Benton's poem, where I Pygmalion or God, I would make you exactly as you are in all dimensions. That was really very powerful and potent stuff and spoke to a side of us that a lot of people hadn't seen before.
Absolutely. That's the genius of Eric Monti. And that's who he was and is, a poet, educated man, an aware man. And you hadn't seen that side of us in a motion picture ever before. And especially in a love story, you know, which has stood the test of time.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the film was not the first time that you worked with Michael Schultz. He had also directed you in a stage play before then?
Correct. We had done a stage play at Lincoln Center, a Ron Milner play called What the Wine Cellars Buy. Mm-hmm. And so we had worked together from that point and then collaborated again with Cooley High.
The Legend of Glynn Turman, do you talk about your start as a stage actor, actually going back to the original production of A Raisin in the Sun?
I do. I give an insight as to how that occurred, how fate or kismet or whatever you want to call it just made that happen, how my mother was a single mom, moved she and I from Harlem, New York, down to the West Village in the late 50s. And some of her friends became some of the greats of all time who were in the village at that time, from James Baldwin and Odetta and Charlie Bird Parker to Lorraine Hansberry, who was a neighbor and a dear friend of my mother's, who lived around the corner, and informed my mother that she had written a play and that there was a part for a little boy in it, and would I be interested in trying out for this part? I didn't know that when trying out, there would be other young boys there trying for the same role, because I had never auditioned for anything before. So I went to the meeting thinking that the part was mine and had no idea what those other kids were sitting in the hall waiting for, you know, because it was my part, they might as well go home. But that started me on my career in acting.
And you've done a number of plays. Some of them actually translated into films. I mean, you were in the film version of Five on the Black Hand Side and The River Niger. You even did Ceremonies and Dark Old Men for television.
Yeah,
So,
boy, you've done your homework, man. Yeah. Yes, you're absolutely right.
yeah.
I'm fortunate and to be a part of some of those wonderful, wonderful productions.
That was a very creative time in the community, though. I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on. Talk about that a little bit, and relate that to your documentary.
Well, we were in the middle of a revolution. You know, we were really in the middle of a revolution on many fronts. And so some of the warriors of that revolution on our part were extremely aware authors, writers, you know, who came up with all kinds of stories that reflected what our struggles were about. And I just happened to be of an age and a part of that time in which I was able to land a lot of the parts in those plays that spoke of this. So I actually speak of my being a part of a revolutionary renaissance in American history, and our weapons were our words and our performances in plays that depicted what the times were about, you know.
And you did a number of television specials, Minstrel Man, for example, with
Yes.
and Thornwell, which you did with a friend of mine, Howard Rollins, which was a really harrowing story.
Two of those, I talk about that play, that motion picture, especially Minstrel Man, in the documentary, and how revolutionary it was. You know, it was actually banned. You know, it had one airing, and I think then it was banned. And I think you can see it now on YouTube, a production of it now on YouTube, but it never aired again because of its daring stance, you know, and daring portrayal. And but I talk about that in the documentary, and what it meant as far as I was concerned at that time. Of course, Howard was a dear friend of mine as well, wonderful actor, and the Thornwell piece. I don't go into so much in the documentary about Thornwell, but that was a piece that was aired on 60 Minutes as a news project that depicting the life of this man, James Thornwell. You know, so yeah, it was quite a time, and I was fortunate to be a part of all of that.
I remember you dancing with Debbie Allen on an episode of Fame. Is that what led to you getting the role of Colonel Taylor on A Different World?
Well, I don't know if it directly led to that, but yes, she and I became dear friends as a result of that experience. We were actually neighbors at a time in Hollywood, and you know, we had a great time doing Fame. I actually went to the High School of Performing Arts. Fame is what that show was all about, our high school, you know. And once again, the documentary goes into that, and what Debbie's part was in making A Different World and Fame and so on and so forth. So yeah, it lent a wonderful hand to that.
Just talk a little bit about Colonel Taylor and how important that role was for another generation of people to see that character, that older gentleman molding young minds. That was really very powerful on A Different World.
That was in tribute to my Uncle Jim, who was the father figure in my life, my aunt's husband, my mother's sister's husband. James Robinson, who had been in World War II and who had been a part of the Cannonball Express, the Red Ball Express.
Yeah.
And you probably know, Eric, that the Red Ball Express was instrumental in keeping General Patton and his tank brigades moving, because they supplied them with gasoline to keep the tanks going. One of his favorite sayings, man, we were in the war and we were flying around with going through hell with gasoline drawers on, you know.
Right. So tell us now what's going to happen with the new documentary. How are we going to be able to see it and when?
Well, we'll be able to see it. It's early. You can pre-order it now, where it's streaming on different streaming venues, and or you can buy the Blu-ray and or DVD if indeed you want to have it as a collection of yours personally. And also, I would suggest that it might be a vehicle for acting classes and schools to have that have an arts department. This might lend some value to that arts programs. So it's out now, and it airs on streaming.
Well, thank you very much. Is there anything I haven't asked you that you wanted to talk about?
No, man, we just can't let it be another 30 years before we hook up again together. Okay.
Okay, absolutely. Take care. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Everett.